Hey, what's up everyone? This is Snackbox. Hope you all are having an amazing day. Happy Friday, guys. In today's video, I want to talk about the new fusion. I haven't shared my thoughts on it yet, but we'll do so in this video. Also, the summon rush for this fusion went live. So first things first, let's take a look at the summon rush event. I think the points should be, the milestones should be where they are usually. So yeah, 3,000 points for 25 fragments. Nothing unusual, as expected. This has been the norm for a very long time. Also a 6-star speed glyph on the way. Not bad, not bad. Okay, so I will go for these 25 fragments. And I had a lot of people asking me like if they should pull shards for this summon rush or not. And there are a few arguments why I would say yes, you should go for these 25 fragments. Now let's take a look at the Plarium Play event calendar first. So if we take a look here at the events and tournaments, there is this Champ Chase tournament next week, right? Next weekend, where we can get 75 fragments. Now a lot of people were wondering, including myself, and I asked Plarium instantly, how are these 75 fragments available? Because in the fusion plan, in the event calendar that they gave us, it says 25 on the Champion Chase tournament plus extra 50. Okay, and those 50 extra fragments are the only ones that are extra in this whole entire fusion event. And the response was that they will be available on the normal milestone rewards. Okay, so what that means is, for example, let's just take this champion training tournament. All those 75 fragments will be on the right side here on the milestone rewards, not on the leaderboard. Okay, they will not be leaderboard rewards. So that's a good thing. Okay, but then again, we don't know how many points we need to get those 25 fragments. It could be some crazy amount. Okay, they could sit at like 8,000, 10,000. I don't know how they're gonna do it, right? So it could be something really high up, in the last milestones for the last 25 fragments. So I would definitely go for these 25 fragments right now on a Summon Rush rather than being surprised by some crazy milestone thresholds. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking. Obviously, you can get a lot of points on the Champ Chase tournament without shards, right? By remnant summons, getting champions from fragment fusions. By the way, you can also fuse the epics on the Champ Chase tournament. That's going to be like 750 points, right? 250 each. And yeah, so I get that, but at the same time, if you have some sacred shards, they will give more points on the summon rush, right? They will always give 500 points. The value is always 500 points on summon rushes, where on Champ Chase tournaments, you might end up just getting epics, okay? And then the value is cut in half. So if you have a couple of sacred shards, I think it's better to open them now to get those 25 fragments, unless you are well prepared for a Champ Chase tournament. That's what I'm thinking, okay? So we're gonna open a few sacred shards, only 6, right? I would just want to do the bare minimum. We have an interesting progressive chance event actually, because we have a Unity champion in here, okay? And this one is actually pretty good. The Orc Unity champion is actually very, very strong. If you faced him in Faction Wars Hard or maybe in a Siege Post, you know what I'm talking about. We have progressive chance events for Unity champions during fusions. Very, very rarely. This is not happening a lot. Most of the times the progressives are very, very bad. I don't know if that means that they are trying to bait us to pull shards for the Summon Rush, and then, the Champ Chase will be much easier. That could be also the case, but at the same time, the only chance for those Unity champions is during progressive chance events, and if you can complete the fusion at the same time, I think it's not bad. Obviously, the progressive chance events for non-voids is insanely bad. Like the chances go up to like 5%. All right, that's it. Right? If you pull a legendary, it's going to be 5%, a 5% chance that it's going to be him. All right, so it's not that great, and the chance, gets lower and lower with every new champion they're implementing in the game. Other than that, we also have Wixwell, which is one of the key champions for Titus teams, right? It's the best shield extender with Titus. And then we also have the Bull. He's one of the new Argonauts champion. Very nice provoke synergy, so also pretty cool. Freya also not that bad, right? And Incarnate, not so sure about her. Since the rebalance, I haven't seen much about her. Also didn't test. I don't know. Okay, so in my opinion, the Unity, Wixwell, and the new Argonauts have the biggest value in here. But we're going to go for the Unity champion, okay? And for the Epic, I'm going to pick Vogov, I believe. It doesn't really matter. I think I have them all fully empowered, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, that's going to be my pick for now. All right. So let's see. 6 Sacred Shards. Let's do it. All right, we got an Epic. 20x on Vogov. But it doesn't really matter, like I already said. I'm actually not expecting too much because I think I'm like, I don't know, like I pulled the legendary couple Sacred Shards ago, so, you know, the chances is just 6%. Number 3. All right, another Epic. We got 3 more to go. All right. Callan the Shrike. Number 5. I think it is, or is it? Yeah, it's number 5. All right, another Epic. Got Skull Crusher. It was actually one of the most wanted Epics back in the day because he was like the only one of 3 champions that had an AoE counterattack buff. There was Valkyrie, there was Martyr, and Skull Crusher, and that was it. Today we definitely have some more options, right? All right, last Sacred Shard, come on. Ah, another Epic. And Gorgorab. Okay, I think I don't have him fully empowered, so that's a good thing, I guess. He's actually not bad in some Cursed City stages. Well, no Lego for me, but that's all right. Didn't expect one anyway, so that's fine. Let's see. Got the Fragments, got the 6-star speed glyph. That's definitely very helpful. I need a lot of glyphs. Got a lot of glyphing to do with some of my new champions. And yeah, so let's actually talk about the new fusion, because I think she is definitely better than most people think. So one weird thing that I realized is that it's like the second reviver for the Dark Elves in a very short time period. We got Noldua, and now we got her as well. So that's, you know, kind of a weird thing why they do this like back to back when other factions like the Ogrins or Shadowkins really are still lacking revivers. I know we got Yukimasa, but he's not really, you know, a typical reviver. We're still hoping for one. And then Ogrins, like there's one, okay, from the legendary options. Okay, we have Bellatar, and that's it. All right, so it's not really not really that stacked with revivers. Oh, you know, Ugo can revive conditionally, but it's not really, you know, helpful most of the times. And then we have Gear Grinder, right, which is a rare with a single target revive on a 5-turn cooldown. So please, Plarium, add a reviver, maybe a fusion, a reviver fusion for the Ogrins. That would be absolutely lovely and would make everyone's life easier in faction wars. Now, Dark Elves, Mavara, the Web Diviner, okay? First of all, absolutely stunning design. Absolutely amazing. Some people already have her, which is interesting, but yeah, that's sometimes that happens. You pull the fusion during fusion events, right? And in that case, actually, it is the best time to swap out the fusion for one of those token fusions, right? She's a support champion, a reviver from the Dark Elves, Magic Affinity. Now that's a good thing. Magic Affinity, or that she has any affinity but Void, is good for supports, because that means some champions can weak hit her. And it doesn't really matter if she weak hits somebody, because all she's there for is to support your team and, you know, make them stronger. So let's start off with A1 now. She has this A1 that places Fervor for 2 turns on a random ally except this champion. if the randomly selected ally is already under a fervor buff, places it on another randomly selected ally, okay? And what that buff does is 10% more damage, 10% damage reduction. Let me actually find it real quick. There it is. Increases damage inflicted by 10% and reduces damage received by 10%. Okay, so it's a very, very strong buff. The passive effect on the A1, which seems to be a trend now that we have passive effects on active skills. Allies under a fervor buff have a 50% chance of joining the attacks of other allies under a fervor buff. All right, so that is an amazing synergy with this buff. And this is amazing for PvP and PvE, okay? So for PvP, right now we have a lot of Mercurial builds, right? So ally attacks on A1s is actually really helpful, all right? Imagine you have a Krutrexa or somebody with a multi-hit on an A1 and that champion joins in on the A1. You deplete all the total guard stacks and the champion is just defenseless, right? So it's a very, very strong A1. Kind of reminds me of Marichka's A1, right? Where an ally would join in the attack. With the difference that more champions can join the ally attack, okay? Anybody that has this buff would join in on the ally, like on the A1, right? So it can be really, really powerful, okay? This is a very, very strong A1. The A2, strengthen, increase resistance, very hard buff to come by. I'm thinking of PvE right now. For PvE, increase resistance in Chimera, for example, is very hard to get. We have like Firo, Androck, right? And there are not a lot of options, a lot of good, valuable, like viable options for trials. We have Oela, obviously, but you know, Oela is not really that good outside of Titus teams, but she is, okay? She is because she's a reviver, she can heal. Strengthen, increase resistance. Strengthen doesn't necessarily help with Chimera trials, but you know, it helps to survive. And then you also, right, the A1, you have ally attacks, okay? So for a reviver, buffs and ally attacks, heal, that is amazing. And if you have one champion with full HP in your team, you know, she will bring everybody up to full HP, okay? So that is an amazing skill. Very, very underrated. A3 revives an ally with 50% HP and 50% turn meter. Places perfect veil buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Also places unkillable on this champion for 2 turns. These buffs will be placed even if no allies were revived. I think this is a cool revive. Don't get me wrong. The only problem that I have with this is that it revives only one ally. Okay, so it's a single target revive. But the fact that she places perfect veil on everybody and places an unkillable on her can be really good, okay? Because if the enemies, you know, if the opponent doesn't have an AoE attack ready, for example, in PvP, right, in Arena, then they have to attack her. But she has unkillable, so very hard to deal with. You have to strip it or ignore it or something. So this can definitely be a very, very nice revive. Or just in general, kind of like a taunt, okay? Not really, but kind of, it can function like one. If you take a look at Perfect Veil, that is also something that a lot of people miss. It should be something somewhere at the top right here. So Veil buffs reduces incoming damage by 15%. So if you have Fervor and Perfect Veil, that's 25% damage reduction, okay? Keep that in mind, all right? So those buffs are really, really powerful. Her passive is probably the best part about her, okay? So you have the 20% turn meter boost for every 8 buffs the enemy team receives. Now, this is kind of like a built-in supersonic effect, right? But at the top end arena, I don't see her being used that much because not a lot of people use turn meter boosters that buff at the same time with like 2 buffs, like R-Base, Siffy. You don't really see them that much anymore. But if the opponent picks one of those, she's definitely a solid pick, right? The other thing that I'm thinking about when I see this passive is that it might trigger Solinar, right? Because you boost the turn meter, that can trigger his counterattack, and you don't really want that, right? So in general, I think it's a powerful passive, but there are some situations where you don't want to pick her. But then again, also for every 16 buffs this champion and their allies receive, heals all allies for 20% of their max HP, and you have a buff here on the A1, you have 2 buffs on the A2, and you have 1 buff, I guess, right, on all allies, but 1 buff on her. So, you know, she's actually buffing a lot. If you have somebody like Marius in the team, that's again 8 buffs, so you can trigger this passive a lot, okay, the heal. You can trigger the heal a lot. And then on top of that, this is also very powerful, a speed aura in the arena, 28%. This is a very, very high speed aura. The highest we have is 33, right? From mythicals, we have Carnage and the new High Elf mythical. Then the next is 30. And we have couple with 28, Armans and her now. I don't know if somebody else, but I think after that, you know, it goes down to 25. You know, that's Arbase, Lazarius, etc. And then it goes down to like 24 and 19. So 28% is actually a very good speed aura on a reviver. This is the highest speed aura than Theodosia, for example, okay? Theodosia has 25. So will this champion be game-changing? I don't think so. I really don't think so. But I think it's a solid one. It's one of those champions that if you don't have a lot of good revivers, she's a solid option, all right, for PvP and for PvE. Especially for Chimera when we talk about PvE. That's where I see her, you know, shining the most. With the Veil, with the ally attack, the 10% more damage, increased resistance, the heal, okay? The HP equalizing on the A2 and the heal on the passive. So I think this is a very, very strong champion. 110 base speed, 115 is the highest. Solid HP, okay-ish defense, kind of on the lower side, but still okay for a support champion. In my opinion, definitely worth to go for. Now, the next upside for this fusion is that you can get a token, okay? You can get a token if you complete this fusion. And by the way, I understand if sometimes you don't really feel like doing fusions, you don't have the time or whatever, or the resources, right, to grind it out, because it is a grind. But I really feel like this one is a little bit underestimated. You know, she's better than a lot of people think she is. That's what I'm thinking about this fusion, okay? All right, guys. That's it for this video. Let me know in the comments below if you are going for Mavara. I think I've covered everything. Let me know in the comments below if you're going for her or if I missed something. Now, actually, that I'm speaking of it, I also saw some questions if Palace, which has also a fervor synergy. Now, her fervor buff will definitely enable the A1 of Mavara, but if Palace joins in with A1, that doesn't mean that another ally will join in on the attack, okay? You will only ally attack once with everybody that has a fervor buff, right? So that's one thing that I wanted to clarify. I actually just remembered. And yeah, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, please hit that like button. It really goes a long way. Also, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more raid content. If you like this video, YouTube's going to think that you like this video as well. And yeah, take care and see you in the next one.